Global session of the Witan Council meeting. I'm very pleased to see again some of the people who came to the earlier session. I know not everyone was able to come back. And I'm pleased to see so many more people. So many of you I know so very well, almost all of you. It's wonderful to see you here. We are going to have our Witan meeting, and I'm going to ask that during the meeting, if you wish to speak, you will raise your hand and I will recognize you rather than we all try to talk at once. And when we vote, and there should be probably 4 votes that we will do during the course of the meeting, that you write your vote into the chat room as a yes or a no to facilitate our ability to keep track. Or I had a message, but it's not relevant. And that will facilitate everything. And we can also raise your hand on the screen, and we are recording. So if there's any question, we can get it one way or the other. And I want to welcome our first elder, Lady Alyssa, and obviously First Priestess, Lady Stephanie, who I know is, there she is, okay. I have all these boxes on my screen. I know you're here. Many members of the Council of Elders and the Archpriesthood. And I'm going to start by just saying a few words, and then I'm going to ask people to take a moment to introduce themselves. And I have 3 things I want to speak to before we start. The first is the Parliament of the World's Religions. And I'm sure that you've all already seen us beating the drums for the Parliament. But the Parliament will be meeting in Chicago next year, year 23 Aquarius, in August. As I recall, I believe it's the 18th through the 24th. And we're hoping to have as many of our Correllian people there as are willing to come. A number have already registered. We're hoping for many more. I'd like to see at least 100 Correllians at the Parliament. For those of us in the US, it will never be easier to get to. Even when it was here in Utah, it wasn't as easy to get to as Chicago, because Chicago is on all the travel routes. It's the weekend, it's August 14th through 18th. And we have a group discount if you sign up through us, which will give you a lower price for signing up. A few people have already done this. I am asking that Correllians register themselves under other as Correllian specifically, so that we show that we are there and so that we are seen. And we are doing a number of different fundraising projects for this. You will hear much more about them as we go forward. Heard a little bit about them before we started live streaming, and we're going to continue focusing on the Parliament as we go through this year and next year, because we feel it's very important. And we have had Correllian representatives at every modern Parliament of the world's religions. Sometimes it was only Sir Edward, but there's always been at least one person there representing us. And lately, we've had large numbers of people come. And the question, is there a discount code or something when registering in the Parliament site? Yes, there is. And as soon as we get the 10 people we need to kick in the discount, we will send the code and the instructions for registering. You do have to do the registering yourself, but we have to do the paying. So it's a little complicated, but not terribly. And the Reverend Sir Lori Blackman is helping coordinate this process. So any questions she can answer. Parliament has been very important to us in a lot of ways, and I'm going to come back to that theme in a moment. But first, I want to talk about Correllian publishing. And if you've been following our announcements, you will see that we have been bringing out a number of our books that have been out of print for several years, bringing them back to print, such as our 3rd degree book, and also new books, such as Reverend Don's Book of Questions, Volume 1 and 2. And we recently brought out the Spanish language 1st degree. The first time I believe that's been available as a book in Spanish. We're about to bring out the Greek language first degree and the Spanish language third degree. And we're hoping to have all of our materials available in these languages over the next year or two, because it is a lot of material to translate. We are hoping to bring out many more books. We are hoping to, most of our materials are available online, of course, but some people still like to have a book. And so we are hoping to have them as books for people who want them. And some things may only be books, because it all depends how things work out. Some of the people who are in the room now, and we have 31 people in this session, are working on books as we speak. Some have already finished them and they're stuck in the queue waiting for the editing to happen. One of the books that I am hoping we'll see in the not too distant future is Correllian Heraldry by our first elder, the Archpriestess Alyssa. And it is sitting in the queue, and just waiting on me to be able to edit everything and get it out. But we're moving quickly, and we brought out a number of new books in a short period of time, and we intend to continue doing that. So if you're interested in writing a book as a Correllian, this is a great time. Feel free to talk to us. The third thing I want to talk about, and this is going to come up as we go forward again in the meeting, is the importance of young people in our tradition. And we've talked several times in the Witan today about what wonderful people we have. And earlier today, the Reverend Sir Chad, who is facilitating this room, made the most beautiful comment about the Witan Council, that it was very inspiring to watch how civilly and cooperatively we work together versus some organizations he has experienced. And I think this is one of our great strengths. And it's very important to me to see this tradition go forward, not just through my lifetime, but after. And I think most of us feel that way. And to do that, we need to continually have young people growing up within the tradition, coming into the tradition, flowering within the tradition. Last night, we saw the Right Reverend Sir Elizabeth acclaimed to the archpriesthood. Sir Elizabeth came to us in her early teens. And she has been through so many different adventures. And today she's working with the International Peace Movement, the Interfaith Movement, and the Order of Paladins to do wonderful things. Archpriestess Alyssa, who was mentioned a few moments ago, came to us as a teenager. Today she's our first elder, and a wonderful first elder she is. And our armorial Grand Deemstress and Chief of Artificers, and just doing many wonderful things in this tradition. The Right Reverend Phoenix, Coffin Williams, came to us at the age of 13, and today he's one of our archpriesthood. The Right Reverend Sir Ablis also was 13 years old when he came to us, grew up in the tradition, has done wonderful things. And many traditions would not have been welcoming to younger people. And in this, we are different from many other traditions. We do welcome people of all ages, and I feel that it has been greatly to our benefit. You can come to us when you're a teenager, you can come to us when you're in your 60s, and still have a wonderful future here. We love everyone that we have. And having said that, I would like to call attention to the Archpriestess Rain, who is our senior priestess in Africa. And I mentioned the Parliament of the World's Religions and how important it has been to Correllianism. The first country outside of the US to have a Correllian temple was South Africa. And the reason this happened was the Parliament of the World's Religions, which allowed us to make connections in South Africa when they met there in 1998. And we established our African branch, I guess we would say, at that time. And the original person in charge of that was not Lady Rain. It was Another woman, much older, very experienced, and a woman who, how can I say, she had been running organizations for a long time before she came to us. And it turned out not to be a particularly good fit. And she decided to leave us to found her own tradition, which was very similar to ours, but that's another story. And she took many of the priesthood with her. And as this was happening, a young woman approached me, and that woman was the Reverend Rain. As I recall, I believe she was 18 years old at that time, and she said to me, "If you trust me, I love this tradition, I believe in this tradition, and I believe I can save our our African operation." And I believed her, and I trusted her. And again, many other traditions would have said, "No, you're too young to do something like that." I did not. I believed she could do it. And in the 20 odd years since then, she has never given me any reason to regret that decision and many reasons to be proud of it. And Lady Rain, I want to thank you for saving Correllianism in Africa and for the many wonderful things you have done since. And with that, I would like you to become the first of our people to speak and to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your Correllian experience. And we have to unmute you.
Unmute me. There we go. I'm Lady Rain. I am based in Cape Town, South Africa. I am the lady of the clan of Cape Temple, and as Lord Don mentioned, senior priestess for Africa. I have also been an African witch school mentor, and I have worked with the tradition for many years, online and in person, um, in getting our tradition recognized and registered with our governmental departments, such as the Department of Home Affairs, and various other groups, and established various other groups and temples around the country. Thank you. Lord Don, I'm not sure if you want me to continue or with
Oh,
my
yes, please. You were
with
talking
the
earlier
presentation,
about,
or
yes.
okay. So initially, when we discussed gathering in the Witan, I questioned what we need to prepare, and Lord Don, gave me a bit of a guideline. So I went away and put something together um, based on Correllianism in Africa. So I'm just going to draw that up quickly and just very quickly, if I can find my way out here. There we go. So, apologies, I'm a bit slow at this. So I opened my report by saying, "Greetings, Lord Don, Lady Stephanie, elders, archpriesthood, notables, and fellow members of the Witan. What a wonderful day it is indeed for us to be able to gather face to face, albeit online, to share in our achievements, goals, hopes, and dreams. How blessed we are to be able to take advantage of the technological advances of our time to bring us closer as a spiritual leadership and family. I am especially honored to be able to address you today as the representative for Africa, and I look forward to us learning, sharing, and growing in each other's experiences. Correllianism has been an integral part of my life and spiritual path for the past 21 or so years. Our tradition has inspired me, challenged me, and helped me grow into the leader and priestess that I am today. It goes without saying that Correllianism, at the core of my spiritual path and lineage, changed my life. And it was 9 years ago that the Lustration of the Ancestors was hosted by the Clan of Cape Temple right here in South Africa. Our members met Lord Don for the very first time, and it was a momentous occasion to be able to spend time and sacred space with our gracious leader, the man ultimately responsible for bringing us all together and providing us with a source of knowledge and opportunities to become the best versions of ourselves and to be a catalyst in doing so for others through the Correllian teachings and the structure of our tradition. And in choosing photos to add to this report, which I will share later on, I looked fondly upon the memories and friendships made that Lustration weekend, and I cannot wait until we once again are able to host the Lustration and hopefully a few more international members here in the beautiful South Africa. So without any further ado, let me continue to present this report. So I want to just very briefly touch upon the current state of Correllianism in Africa. As you know, COVID has affected us on so many different levels, and we've all had to make a way of working around it, um, coming through or over for that matter. So at this point, our active groups, we have one fully active temple based in Cape Town, which is chartered to myself. We have ongoing degree courses and regular rituals which take place in person and occasionally online. And unfortunately, most of our members that were affiliated with now dormant temples in Gauteng and Pretoria have either moved on to a solitary path or become distant members of the Clan of Cape Temple. In terms of membership, we have a small base of solitary members in most of the provinces, but less than a handful outside of South Africa in other African countries. The Clan of Cape Temple has a membership base of about 30 real-time and distant members at the moment. In terms of pagan community, we remain in good standing in the local pagan community and participate online and in person where possible and when requested to do so. We are not as active as we could be online, but endeavour to pick things up in the year ahead. For those that don't know, we also have a local website to give us a bit of a local presence, and that is just www.correlliantradition.co.za. Furthermore, as mentioned previously, we are registered with our local Department of Home Affairs as a religious organization, and as such, we have 4 members of our clergy that are religious marriage officers under the Civil Union Act. And this means that we can marry any couple regardless of gender. At this time, we have myself and Reverend Linda Everett that are based in Cape Town, Reverend Angie de Villiers that is based in KZN, and Reverend Gita Seyfat that is based in Port Elizabeth. In terms of growth, we have stagnated in growth due to COVID over the past 2 years and are only really starting to become fully active again since the national state of disaster was lifted on the 4th of April this month. A few of our members have had to take a step back due to illness and financial difficulties, making it difficult for them to travel as well as access the internet as they are working from home. Going forward in terms of goals, we would like to grow our membership. We need to grow our membership in the other provinces and the rest of Africa. Ideally, it would be great to once again establish active groups in the various areas where our solitary members attend rituals, but the challenge has always been to appoint dedicated and competent leaders that are able to deal with the challenges of running a group and group dynamics. Media visibility. While we continue to host regular rituals and offer ongoing Correllian degree courses, our intention is to do more online training and rituals for our solitary members and the pagan community. We hope to get a few videos out there in order to help us get more an online presence. Fellowship. The Clan of Cape Temple is in the process of establishing a bi-monthly holistic meetup and support group for members struggling with mental health issues and life challenges. But by no means will this be replacing professional therapy. Community outreach. We were previously engaged with the Cape Town Interfaith Initiative and presented a talk on Wicca and our tradition. Going forward, we are hoping to get more involved by participating in community interfaith projects, as this will be a good way to establish visibility in the community at large. We will be establishing a pagan circle for kids, where we will be offering literature and hold circles and activities for pagan kids, which will be run by one of our members. And then our library. I'm sure you've all been waiting to hear as to the progress of our library. Unfortunately, this has been a very sad situation for us in that we have not been able to establish a space to set up our library. But all the books received are safely in storage, and the funds raised is banked until the space avails. Our previous application to install a Wendy house was rejected as it was a costly process. We did not want to attempt it again until we had alternate space. But without divulging too much, we are hoping for this to happen within the next year, so watch the space. And then our long-term goals. We would love to host another lustration. We're looking at the next 3 to 5 years, but hopefully sooner. And then ideally to be able to raise funds to purchase a piece of land and build our own temple so that we can have our own sanctuary for healing, weddings, funerals, classes, and workshops. And in closing, I just have a very brief message. Now is the time that we step up out of the shadows and reclaim our power. Never before has it been so essential for us to take a stand and use all the tools provided to us by the Goddess, with the help of our guides and ancestors, to move forward and overcome the challenges that hinder us from our great work. We hold the power deep within, and we need only tap into it to engage the light that will always guide our way. For we are never alone, and we are always connected. By the power and blood of our lineage, forever we are one. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present our Correllian world here in Africa. May our efforts please the Goddess and be blessed by the ancestors always. May you blessed be.
Thank you, Lady Red.
So on the next page, I've basically just included a little bit of information and photos as to what some of our members are up to. I'm sure we can make this document available on one of our Facebook pages for those who want to go and have a look. But yeah, I've just included some photos of our Reverend Angie, who is smudging and addressing attendance at the Sanctuary of the Great White Light, where she often is asked to do channeling for the community. Now, this is also an interfaith initiative, so that is great for our KZN membership and getting our name out there in that area. I've also included, oh, maybe I should just share this page quickly. Sorry, can I just try and do that? Oh, I can't do that here in this chat.
If you wish, I can make you a co-host for the moment, and then you'll be able to
just
share your
for the
screen.
Second.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely,
great,
absolutely. One
Thank
moment,
you so
please.
much.
You're very welcome. Let's see.
Well, while Sir Elizabeth's doing that, I would like to explain a couple of things that some of the members might not be familiar with. In the US, being clergy and being able to perform marriages is pretty much synonymous, but that isn't the case in much of the rest of the world. And when Lady Rain was speaking of marriage officers, in most of the world, this is something completely different from just being clergy. And so it's quite an accomplishment to have those marriage officers there in South Africa. It is not just a matter of being clergy. And I think that Lady Rain's presentation kind of speaks for most of us in how we've been hit by the COVID pandemic and how important it's been that we have these online resources that have allowed us to continue to be in communication with each other and with our students and members.
Lady Rain, you should now be able to share your screen.
Okay, let's try. Share. Okay, can we see this? Good. Can we see? Okay,
Yes,
great.
indeed.
So this is Reverend Angie. She's doing her smudging and her address for the members in her at the sanctuary of the Great White Light. And then here is one of our newer members. Her name is Sarah. She has recently launched her own business, making herbal um, ointments and teas and that sort of thing. And she has the most wonderful products that she is putting out there on the market at the moment. So that's just a little bit of information about her. And she will also be the lady that will be running our kiddie circle. And then I thought I'd add a couple of photos of our crazy members and what we get up to in ritual and our Yule celebrations and our 4:30 in the morning beach rituals and all kinds of things that we love to do together. We are a very close-knit family and we are so honored to be a part of this tradition. Thank you everybody for putting up with me for the last 10 minutes.
No, it was wonderful.
Yes, thank you very much, Lady Rain. At this time, I would like to say that we have 4 agenda items to discuss in this meeting. And I'm just going to go through each of them. And what we're going to do is we'll discuss them and then we'll take a vote. And these are the same agenda items we spoke about in the earlier Witan meeting, except for one additional one. And we'll undoubtedly be speaking about them in the subsequent Witan meetings as well, because not the same people are attending all of the meetings. So the first one has to do with international clergy fees. And we are talking about the fact that our clergy fees that are based in the US are not really convenient for much of the rest of the world. In many countries, they're quite prohibitive. We have already made some adjustments for certain countries, but we're wanting to do this more across the board. And Lady Lori, would you like to talk about what you spoke about earlier on this subject?
Thank you, Lord Don. As Master of Records for the Mother Temple and Dean of Students for Witch School, I'm often made aware of situations where someone has completed the work but is unable to afford the clergy fees. This comes in several forms, but the largest one is related to the value of currency, US currency versus local currency, and the differential between a day's wages in the United States on average and a day's wages based against the US dollar in other countries. So what I am hoping that you will lend support for is to come up with an equitable way to benchmark a target, whether it be a average day's wages, whether it be a minimum wage in a country, because not every country has a minimum wage, but some benchmark that we can all understand and benchmark the clergy fees against that. On the Correllian site where the application is, instead of it stating a dollar amount, it would have a chart by country that a applicant could then find the appropriate amount to send. I think this would greatly expand our clergy base and bring in those people that have done the work, earned the right to apply, but have never exercised that right because of the prohibitive cost in their local country. The other significant group of people that this cost impacts are our disabled Correllians, because often they are living on a very limited income. The clergy fees are important. They are the major way that we fund the tradition. All of the support that each one of us gets from the tradition for our organizations has a cost associated with it. And there are things that have to be covered. The only other major source of income that we have are the Correllian auctions twice a year. There are wonderful Correllians that make monthly donations to the tradition, but those are few and far between. People focus on their local temple, which is fine, but we need those clergy fees. And I'm hoping that we can come up with a way, an equitable way, as a global organization to structure our clergy fees so that it is affordable no matter where you are. And Reverend Phoenix at the Witan earlier today had a wonderful idea that may be also available to our disabled members. Reverend Phoenix, would you like to speak to that? Your service idea?
Yeah, so I do just want to say that paying attention to this particular detail in the way we function is a direct way to combat issues related to ableism and classism. And I'm very proud that we are all convening here to address this issue. And with that being said, I did suggest earlier that perhaps we allow folks who are struggling to pay to participate or volunteer in some active service that does support the tradition, our interests, or the work that we do. And so after the meeting, what came to mind was potentially tabling at events and disseminating information and, you know, doing some hardcore work out in the community as possible, or any other way that, you know, might be appropriate as, you know, as we all see fit, but making those opportunities available for people so that they can actually work off their fee, you know, as a way of offsetting that burden. So thank you.
And in addition to this, in the earlier meeting, the Reverend Indigo, who I'm not certain if Reverend Indigo is here now because we have 32 people attending and I just can't see everyone. But Reverend Indigo suggested that there were also people, including Reverend Indigo themselves, who would be willing to also sponsor people's clergy fees in certain circumstances. I'd also like to say that although the clergy fees are very important to the financial health of the tradition, by adjusting them for other countries, I think we'd actually see that go up rather than down, because more people would be able. We've always believed in bringing in more people at a lower entry point versus few people at a higher entry point was a better idea. And that certainly remains a guiding light for us. So having said all of that, what I would like to ask you to vote on isn't necessarily any of these specific solutions, but rather that we will go forward to find a solution to this situation, working with the ideas that have been brought forward, maybe others as well.
If anyone has any other ideas, if they would forward them to Lord Don and Lady Stephanie, that would be wonderful.
And with that, I would ask you, if you would, to say either yes or no in the chat room, so we can have a vote on whether we wish to go forward in this direction. And while we're voting, I will say again that we have already implemented something like this for certain countries. Probably the most notable was Venezuela, where the entire economy had collapsed. And it made a huge difference to Correllianism in Venezuela when we did that. And I think that by pursuing by pursuing a policy that will allow us to adjust our clergy fees according to people's need, I think that we will actually see a wonderful response in the future. I think it is a great benefit. And I think that that people have made their voting. And so I will go on to the second issue. And this is one that did not come up in the earlier Witan meeting, but I'm going to go ahead and bring it up now. And currently, in the school, when a person is studying for clergy, but they fail the final, or they fail the course, they have to completely repeat the course. And we were looking at changing that policy so that they could merely repeat the final. And I'm going to ask Lady Lori to explain this as the dean of the school, exactly what we're talking about.
Thank you, Lord Don. I've seen this happen several times a year with our students, where they have had stellar grades all the way through the course, have a 3.5 or a 4.0 average, and then they hit the final. And the way the clergy requirements currently stand is they must have an average of 3.0 for all of their coursework, plus an average of 3.0 on their final exam. And I say average because the first degree, it's 2-part final exam because the site can only list up to 25 questions. It's devastating to these students when they hit that final exam and they don't do well. They're so close to finishing, and then it explodes on them.
And
I must say that it is a true testament to their training that they handle it with grace and with perseverance. And 99% of the time, they will turn around and we will wipe out those grades and they will start over working on their goals, which I love that they have that personal growth and perseverance to do that. However, this slows them down for first degree by 6 months, and for the second and third degree by a year. So I'm proposing that we change the clergy requirements that if they fail the final exam, and by fail, I mean less than a 3.0, because that is the benchmark, which, remember, on a 4-point scale, a 2 is average, that we allow them to just retake the final exams, that they do not have to put in additional 6 months or a year to proceed on their spiritual journey.
So basically what we're asking is not that we lessen our standards, but that we adjust the process to make it easier for people when an unexpected difficulty like this happens. Not everyone does well with that kind of test. And when someone has done beautifully right up until then, obviously they're having a problem with the format of that test. So we would like to make it easier for them, and easier in general, I would say, without losing our standards, but being more accessible to people. So that is our next item that I would like to have a vote on. Does anyone have anything else they would like to say on the subject before we go? Yes, Lady Elizabeth. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Lord Don. One thing that I would like to say about this is that I struggled with written tests. I struggled with multiple choice questions. And something that I have found in my own temple that works very well is allowing for a different format of test.
Mm-hmm.
I have given tests verbally. I sit here, we record the exam, I write down the questions word for word in a recording, and then I grade it.
And this is
And
why
that-
I emphasize that we're talking about making things more accessible in
Yes.
general.
Yes, and so I am very glad to hear this it is being brought forward, because you know you're worth so much more than one exam. One exam should not set you
Exactly.
back this much. Thank you.
And Lord Phoenix.
So to kind of piggyback off of what Right Reverend Sir Elizabeth Hamilton was saying is I do think that offering multiple types of exams would be helpful. Also, having such a large exam be kind of intimidating, and having that be something that does kind of determine whether or not you will meet your goal now or later can be really scary for some folks. So I'm wondering, like, if in the event someone does fail their first attempt, do we offer them some kind of like, hey, looks like this exam was a blind spot for you. Is there any support you could use before you make your next attempt? Before you do make your next attempt, do you want to try another multiple choice? Do you want to try written? Do you want to try verbal? As a way of maybe just like helping to clear out that blind spot and helping them maybe reconcile what it was that went awry for them in the first place.
Yeah, we do offer that, Lord Phoenix. We do offer that already.
So, Lord Brian.
Yeah.
Your box has disappeared off my screen, but I know you had your hand up.
Yeah, I know even with the schooling that I'm doing now, whatever, we get multiple choice, we get essay questions, we get everything. The one thing that they have set up there is if you fail, you don't have to redo the entire course, but you get one free attempt at the exam before, clearly with this one or whatever, we'd have to repay or whatever if we fail the second attempt. But maybe if there's something that's instituted that, you get a second attempt, and then if you fail the second attempt too, whatever, just because I know some people do have trouble with multiple choice and various other styles of testing or whatever, if maybe then it's a re-examining with their mentor of what might the issue be. So that way, if they need a different style format of test or whatever, it can be addressed and they can do it that way. To see if, like, do you have to go back 6 months or whatever else and try again? Or this way, at least, if they've been given the 2 attempts or whatever else like that, then it can be discussed with them on what the issue might be. So that way it can be clarified better for them and maybe help them succeed, or at least give their mentor in which school or whatever the understanding of, okay, you guys really aren't studying the material. This is why it's going on. So I think it clarifies everything a little bit better for everybody.
Yes. Lady Katharina, you're muted.
Greetings to all and blessings. I'm so happy to be here with all of you.
We're happy to have you here.
My question, Reverend Brian covered some of it, but my question is, if they fail the second attempt, will something be put in place by looking over their past coursework to see where their weaknesses are and having the mentor set up some type of regimen for them for those areas that they're lacking in? And also, I think making them start, unless their grades have been very bad, I think making them start all over again, we may lose, especially our younger people, because they're a little impatient. They set their mind to do something, and a lot of them are growing and learning the commitment end of things, and they're not willing to take another 6 months or a year. So I think bringing the mentors into play with the students to help them find a place where they're lacking and let them exceed in that and then retake the test again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Lady K. Other Lady K, Lady Kyle.
So I just want to clarify, we're talking to about someone that's done good for the whole
Yes.
lessons and then did bad, because it's a whole different matter if they've been like on the fence throughout their whole lesson. So we are talking about someone just had a bad test.
Yes.
Yeah, they would still
Okay.
have to make that overall average of 3.0. We're not
Well,
talking about changing that. We're just talking about the final exam.
I think it would be important for the mentor to speak with them and, you know, maybe even study a little, figure out what their weak points were on where their issues were before they were to take it again. But I would have no problem with taking an exam again, because I can tell you, when I was in nursing school, there were days that I was like, oh, I had my family, I was overtired. I went to a test totally exhausted and totally bombed it. And just like with the degree programs, mine where you must get at least we had to get a C on every test or we were out. We couldn't get anything lower than C in any test. And there were some tests that I barely got by, and it would have been awful if I would not have been able to get my degree because I had a bad day.
Exactly.
And our mentors are wonderful, watching the progress of the students. If a student gets 2 low grades in a row or 2 low grades that show up on their transcript, our mentors do reach out to them to find out if the material was challenging or the format was challenging. Our mentors work with our students. They just don't check boxes with our students. So all of that care and support is there for our students. It's just sometimes, occasionally, I think what really happens is they're so excited to get so close to finishing, especially for first degree, because the other courses won't even open up until they have that final exam grade in CWC 101, that they really take the test when they're not ready to take the test. Lady K was so generous to share with me her stairway to learnings that I now send to all of my students to make sure they're ready for their exams. I share that at my 2-week check-in so that they've got that before they even can take the first test. So the mentors are doing the job of supporting our students, and I am eternally grateful to them for doing that. And we're not talking about lowering the standards of the overall program. That's still a 3.0. It's just being able to take that final exam over again without having to wait 6 months to a year to do it.
And Lord Kyle.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to speak on something that Lady Lori had mentioned, because there have been times in the past where some of my students have done really well and then kind of, bombed that last test. And what I find is interesting is that when I've coordinated with Lady Lori and we've gotten a copy of the essay exam, they do really well, like exceptionally well. And so I wonder if maybe there wouldn't be a way that we could have sort of at the discretion of the mentor with agreement from the student to maybe do that version of the exam instead of the multiple choice version. Just as kind of a way to maybe play more to the student's strengths and assist them in being successful.
Thank you, Lord Kyle.
That option is currently available. We have essay exams for all of CWC 101. And if a mentor at any time feels like their student is not thriving in a multiple choice format, those essay exams are available. They take the essay, the mentor grades it, and then they input the grade for that lesson exam or the final exam. So everyone should be taking advantage of that program now.
And I also would like to point out that for some people, using the essay exams, doing them orally rather than written is sometimes something that makes it much easier for them.
Yes.
And I think we need to have a variety of approaches. And generally speaking, we just want to make sure people are not losing out because it was a bad day, because it was the wrong format. And so I'm going to ask if we can go ahead and vote on whether we wish to pursue changing that policy. So if you would write it into the chat room, yes or no, according to what you feel. And then after this, we have 2 more agenda items. And we have 33 people present. I'm very pleased. This is very different from most lustrations, but I have to say so far I have enjoyed the weekend. But I do wish we were all physically together and could be experiencing it that way. But you know, the world in the last 2 years has not really permitted that. But I am hoping that will be changing. So I think everyone has put their vote in, and I'm going to move to the next agenda item. I hope I can explain it as well as I explained it the first time. And when this was discussed in the earlier Witan meeting, our sacred grandmother, Lady Angela, was brought up, and her Crystal Cavalier project. And so I want to give her a little bit of a heads up that we would like to ask her about that project in a moment, so that she's not taken by surprise. So the next thing has to do with attracting young people and the importance of continuing to expand our tradition forward through the generations. We have wonderful people of every age. And, you know, we have had people who came to us in their 70s and made a wonderful future with us. And we've had people who come to us as children and make a wonderful future with us. But in terms of going forward, when we are all become ancestors, we must have an eye on younger people who will take our place in time. Throughout this lustration, the accomplishments of people who came to us very young have been emphasized, not to take away from the accomplishments of people who came to us later in life, which we also have remarkable people for whom that is the case, but to point out that in some other traditions, people are not so friendly to young people, but to us it has been a great blessing to have young people come. And we want to, what I'm asking is that we look at ways to make ourselves more accessible to young people, more desirable to young people. Or maybe I shouldn't say more desirable, because I think if they see us, we're good. Some of the things that we've talked about include perhaps creating some materials for pagan parents who homeschool, perhaps creating some more social possibilities, and also the fact that a number of our temples do work with younger people. Although I do want to emphasize it's always very important to do so safely and with reference to best practices. But that this is something we wish to continue to focus on as we go forward. One of the things that was brought up was Lady Angela's Crystal Cavaliers, and I was hoping she could speak to us a little bit about her experiences with that project and how it is going. No pressure. Just out of nowhere.
I'm going to say about 4 or 5 years ago, our temple decided that we would have a special group for our children. And so we signed up for a program with a different tradition. We paid a tremendous amount of money for both the children annually, our circle group, the adults. We went through all the training, and then the kids were doing lessons. And when it came time to get the badges, we contacted this group and said, okay, now how do we get these badges that these children have earned? Crickets. We never heard another word from them. So we were at Pagan Pride Day here in Jacksonville, and I approached Lord Don, and I asked him, I said, what do you think about if we start our own Correllian children's group? And he thought that was a great idea. So since then, we've been working on it. And thanks to Lady Pamela Griffith, she's been working very hard to create lessons, both religious lessons and I'm not quite sure what you would call like camping and boating and just like different things that she's been working on. She's also designed uniforms. So I think if we can just fine tune these lessons, get them in print and get them ready to go, I think we're on our way.
Thank you, Lady Angela.
Thank you.
I think it's very important that we continue developing resources like this for our young people. It's also very important, again, that we're very careful how we interact with young people for reasons I'm sure we all understand. And when we bring this to a vote in a few moments, it's not the Crystal Cavaliers per se that we're voting on. That's only one aspect of outreach. And that's underway regardless. But whether we wish to continue to make this a focus, and I see that Lady Laurie has her hand raised.
Thank you. Lady Angela, no pressure, but when you and Lady Pam are ready to roll out for the tradition, I think it would be a great idea if we had a training course for the local temples that they could go through for their adults on how to lead a Crystal Cavalier group and offer that through Witch School, and then provide information on Correllian.com, maybe have a Crystal Cavalier page that when people come and check out the tradition to see what we offer, that would be highly visible. I also want to encourage our youth ministry. We have as a tradition the ability to train for clergy anyone who's 13 years and older. We legally can do that through the internet, through international internet law. So as long as a person is age 13, we can train them. And I know Lady Kai's daughter, Rachel, took advantage of the teenage training. And when she passed her exams and fulfilled the requirements, she earned her yellow stole. And as an adult at age 18, she becomes fully vested clergy. So that's another program that I think that we need to get more information out. You do not have to be 18 to study for clergy. You can do your study, become prepared, and be ready to step into that role at age of majority.
It is important to say that legally speaking, we cannot ordain anyone under the age of 18. They can be initiated. It simply does not become a legal ministry until they turn 18, which is the yellow stole. Lady Kay, I see you have your, Lady Kai, I see you have your hand up still. I don't know if that is in reference to this or left from before.
Yeah. So if you guys remembered, I started the Children Are the Future Formoshine for this type of purpose. We have a half-finished curriculum for like pagan parents, except a lot of my helpers that were gung-ho at the beginning have all disappeared, leaving basically just me and a couple stragglers that help every once in a while. So while Lady Angela is more like scouts type area, I was thinking more pagan parenting, the homeschool type stuff like that. So if anyone wants to help me, and we can, it'd be great.
Wonderful.
And then I was also talking, well, as you said, Rachel, that was one of Rachel's proudest moments when she got her purple stole, when I finally dug my, but one of the things that we do that when you have younger members in your temple, you could have them bring a friend that might be interested, or just bring a friend with them at events, because we got like 5 of Rachel's friends who are now training because they've just tagged along with Rachel at an event. So that draws them in. You know, use any way you can to draw them in. Have a fun day. Just have fun. And what Rachel says, that what draws a lot of them in is Instagram. I don't know Instagram, but she's really big on Instagram. So social media, and people like Aisha who have fun on TikTok. It's that little stuff that seems weird to us, but is very much a major part of their lives.
Thank you, Lady Kai. And since it's been brought up, Lady Aisha, you do a wonderful job with TikTok and everything you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A lot of it seems to start like a joke, and then it becomes a real serious thing. I just like to have fun with it.
You do a beautiful job.
Thank you.
So I would like to go ahead and put this to a vote if nobody has any further comments, but I do want to emphasize what we're voting on is not any of these specific things that we've discussed, but rather making this a focus of continued development. And if you agree, please type yes in the chat room. And if you think it's not the right direction, feel free to say accordingly. And you can say yes as many times as you like, but you still only get one vote.
I'd also like to add that there is a sore need for pagan homeschooling materials. I see it almost weekly in pagan parenting groups and things like that. People are hungry for that kind of material to help their children. So,
and if we are the ones who provide it, it will be good material for it. And we can be confident in what we ourselves create. So I really hope, and I see that people are in support of this. I really hope we can develop this and these other things we're talking about for the future. Because the children, at the risk of being cliche, the children are the future. And so I think it's very important that we continue to make them a priority of our tradition. I only have one more agenda item. And then if anyone here wishes to bring anything up, you may do so. The last agenda item is whether we like this format for Witan meetings. I was thinking we could perhaps do this once a year, either in association with Lustration or separately, as a way of trying to get as much of the Witan together as possible using this format. And if you agree, feel free to say so. And if you disagree, feel free to say so. I realize Zoom is not everyone's cup of tea. And I'm absolutely thrilled by what a response we've gotten tonight. The voting members of the Witan, as I recall, are 47 people. 33 have been in this chat room. Others were present in the meeting earlier who are not here tonight. I'm sure we'll have that tomorrow as well. So I think that all of the voting members will have attended, which is breathtaking when you come down to it. Now, if we include the Witan galleries, which have expanded from what they once were, but it's 105 people, but the voting members are the 47. And I believe we have all been here, or most all of us have been here. And Lady Elizabeth suggests having that meeting outside of Lustration would be best. That probably is so, but we don't have to decide that right now. But I did want to see if people thought it would be a good idea to do this annually. When we discussed it at the earlier meeting, the comment was made that more than annually would probably be too much for people. I agree with that. Although we certainly will see each other in many ways throughout the year, but to have one big meeting a year, I think would be very nice. So with that, I will open the floor to anyone who would like to bring up anything else, if anyone does wish to bring up anything else.
I guess I want to bring up what I brought up at the earlier meeting, and dovetailing off of Lady Lori about visibility, and that I recognize that when a new person enters our doors, that the largest, as I called it before, cauldron, the largest visibility is clergy. And that, okay, no problem, continue doing that the best of our ability and grow and everything. So I'm not saying anything about that, except there are many people, and probably more people than not, that have no interest in being clergy. They want to be a witch. And they may not want to have everything related to anything dealing with clergy at all. And so yet they have brilliant talents, so that what I'm proposing is that we all start thinking in terms of when a person enters the doors, that there's just not one cauldron. There's several cauldrons that a person can be a full-blown witch without being clergy, and have levels. Most people are quite content with being at the first level. But many people are quite content being at the intermediate level and want to stay there for the rest of their lives. And then some want to go at master level, and that we can have all that available to them all through witch school. And yeah, so that's just gist of it. Okay. Elizabeth, or yeah, Lady Elizabeth.
Thank you. I until you said that, I was not going to bring this up, but I'm getting the knock on the door, so I'm going to go with it. And I've suggested this about 10 years ago, I think it was, perhaps a little bit longer. I don't know that reinventing the wheel is necessary. So why don't we think about separating initiation from ordination? In this way, we wouldn't have to spend 3, 5, 7 years on developing an entire program for the folks who don't want to be clergy, but who do want to be recognized as fully blown witches. I liked that phrase a lot. And in this way, we have the materials at hand. There is no reason why we need to go and do this again when our materials are lovely,
are there,
just as they are. Thank you.
Yes. Lady Lauren?
Yes, we do have this program in place. We do. When we selected the courses that were going to be offered as part of the free basic courses for witch school, we made sure that we had a little bit of everything. We've got the divination, we've got the psychic work, we've got the herbalism, we've got the crystals. We make available through that free basic membership a taste of everything. Once you're a supporting member, there are 140 classes on witch school. The vast majority are not clergy classes. They're metaphysical classes. I like Lady Stephanie's idea of leveling in relationship to being a witch. I think it would be very cool if we could take a look at the curriculum that we have now and put together a certificate program. If you complete these set of courses at witch school, you earn a certificate as a certified witch or a certified tarot reader or whatever the discipline is. It would not have the legal standing of a clergy certificate, but there's a lot of people that don't want a clergy certificate. I also, while I've got the floor, want to remind everyone who has a temple that they can have their students go through witch school, and you can be assigned as their mentor, as a temple mentor. You do not have to take random students off of witch school. You can just take students from your temple as temple mentor. So I'm excited to think about further certifications through witch school, because that is a question that we often get from our metaphysical students. Do I have a certificate? We used to allow them to print certificates after each class, but then we had people that were passing those certificates off as false clergy standing. So we stopped with the new website. The new website does not have that capability, but we can make certificates available and put an application process on the website explaining that certificate program. So I would love to explore that further. Great idea, Lady Elizabeth.
And Lord Brian.
I think I brought something similar up or whatever earlier. When I was saying that we, within my temple or whatever else, that we use Living the Wiccan Life as the initial first year for everybody. It is the standard that's set up for the first year with the temple. One of the things I do up here or whatever else that is, I give the people the opportunity, even if they finish that or whatever else that and don't want to do their clergy status, of course they can go through witch school, whatever, and do the degree program. But what I end up offering is sort of an initiation into the temple or whatever else. I got to recognize them as a fellow witch once they've completed that first year. Explaining to them, like, no, you're not clergy, but we do recognize you because you put in that effort and you've done the studies and you've at least got that basic foundation going. If you want to continue on, so be it. If you want to become clergy in the future, so be it. We leave it open so that way they can either do all three degrees plus the Living the Wiccan Life, or they can stop after Living the Wiccan Life. But we offer them that initiation into the temple and recognizing them sort of like my original initiation many, many years ago was as a recognition as a witch, as a fellow witch, but not as a member of that group.
Right.
And
Lady Alyssa,
that's kind of something that we do.
First Elder Lady Alyssa.
Thank you. So I just want to piggyback off what Lady Elizabeth was discussing about separating initiation from ordination. I could think of at least one Correllian outer court member off the top of my head who's been practically begging for at least a decade to be able to be initiated but not ordained, because she does not want to be clergy. And I've, because of her and conversations with her, I've long been a supporter of that. And I think it's something that should be thought about, because not everybody wants to be clergy, but I don't think that they should be barred from an initiatory experience because they don't want to be of service in that way.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And Lady
Thank
Rain.
you. Oh, thank you.
Lady Rain.
Hi, thanks. So I again want to piggyback off that to say I 100% agree. We have the same situation here in South Africa, where the minute you say clergy and refer to reverend status, people tend to withdraw because they feel, oh, I'm on the spot here. I've got to change my life, or whatever the case would be. Where we know that's not the case.
Yes.
For them, they have this sort of ingrained in them that clergy is a certain way, whatever the case may be. So for us, so yes, I'm in total support of us looking at that and possibly separating the two, possibly having different requirements, whereas you would have the degree courses for initiations and then additional courses, possibly separate to what we already have for reverency or clergy status. So that's
Yes.
just my 5 cents.
Oh,
Then I'd like to piggyback off, I think it's Reverend Brian, with regard to the Living the Wiccan Life. So what we do is we also offer that as a basic entry-level course for all members. And then what we do at the end of that period, we give them a patch and a stole of a different color, to indicate that now they've now completed that cycle and they've earned that status and they've earned that title of initiated witch, so to speak. So there are lots of ways to make people feel included, but I really do feel that looking at the difference between ordination and initiation would be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Lady Laurie. Lady Laurie.
To me, there are two different initiations for people that don't wish to be clergy. The first is the outer court membership. Being an outer court member simply means that you self-identify as a Correllian. It does not bestow any clergy standing, but it does declare that at least one of your paths is the Correllian path. And I think we could do better as temple heads of getting people registered as outer court and explaining what that is. Because a lot of times I see through my Master of Record work that when I get the first degree application, this person has never even registered as an outer court member. So I think we as temple heads could do a better education process of what outer court means and what that does for the tradition. It's absolutely free to apply to be an outer court member. There's no cost. And then, of course, the second one is the one that we're discussing today, an initiation in the craft, not in the religion. So while I'm hearing several temple members are doing Living the Wiccan Life as a introduction to Wicca, that Wicca is the religion, and I fully support them doing that. And it is something great for every outer court member to take advantage of, because that is one of the free courses at witch school. But I also think that in this age of the explosion of the growth of the metaphysical community, not in the religious sense, but in the magical sense, that we do need to come up with a way to recognize those people that have broadened their metaphysical education.
And Lord Phoenix.
Thank you. So basically what I'm hearing for all of this is a call to meet people where they are at. And I think that working hard to diversify what we offer, what's available, or the various ways it can be organized to help people meet their individual needs will also serve us in some of the other things that we've been talking about, like reaching out to younger people and, helping them recognize that whatever goals they might have for themselves, metaphysically, spiritually moving forward, can be found in our seminary, in our school, through the programs that we have to offer. Helping folks understand that the stuff that we have to offer is a great foundation for helping them set up their own metaphysical, spiritual counseling practice in their communities, based on whatever their standards and bylaws are, and that the stuff that we offer can absolutely assist with building a career, might also be something that helps offset what it means to be paying clergy fees, or what it means to be making regular donations to the tradition or some of the stuff that we're doing. So I think that meeting people where they're at in general will always be a best practice for us to consider.
Yes,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Archpriest Phoenix.
Absolutely.
Sir,
I thought Lord John had his hand up.
Thank you.
He does.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Anastasio. I'm just thinking that in my prior career, there were a lot of places that had trouble keeping great people because the only path up was managerial, and they weren't suited for it, and they didn't want it. And nor it's not everybody's cup of tea, as we know. And I think that nobody is pushed into this Wiccan religion that I'm aware of. We were pulled into it, and it's between us and the goddess, and it's initiating into a relationship with the goddess that brings a lot of people here. And so I think that there are three pieces to it. The content, clearly we have the content. And we're good at structuring that content so that we can make it make sense and make it a logical projection. But I think we need to ask ourselves, what would be the role if we were to call it a professional track and a leadership track, right? And clergy is the leadership track. If we were to do that, which I think I'm hearing that there's a lot of passion for that. And I think it's great. I mean, if somebody's really great at something and they love doing it, why do we want to stop them from doing it? By putting other things in their way. So I think the question is, what would be the role in our minds of a third degree witch? What would an arch witch be? What would what would be the place in the community? Because that's the content is one thing, the learning process is the second thing. The third thing is, I think a lot of what has kept a lot of people here is this extraordinary group of people that we're looking at on the screen right now, and all of the other people who make up just an amazing family almost instantaneously because of how wonderful you all are. And so I think that it's also a part of creating a role for that first, second, third degree witch that isn't managerial, but is some sort of spiritual contribution to their temple, to the tradition. I think you get what I'm talking about. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Sir Rolando. You're muted.
Okay. Okay. Good evening over there, and it's good morning here. So I just want to address as a reaction for the certification versus ordination and initiation. Actually, last year there is an issue here in the Philippines with regards to the practice of witchcraft, especially on conducting tarot reading, or giving prediction as a work of a psychic here in the Philippines. And it brought me up to the attention that our law here is an inherited law from Spain, which is the revised penal code. There is a law that says fortune telling is a crime, and many people last year have condemned a certain person because of doing tarot reading. And I asked the Order of Paladin and Lord Sir Ed have mentioned that even in the United States, there is a law that says, they agree that it is still a crime because there is no certification or legal licensing for the tarot reader. But what is comforting to me, according to Sir Ed, our clergy status as an ordained clergy status give us protection of performing this task. But now, what I can see is, I think my work here in the Philippines is to encourage people to become ordained in order to practice. Because if we just give them certification or an initiation, many people claim that they are initiated. But when I ask them, on which tradition, they will claim that they are an eclectic witch, and according to the book that been written, they are a witch, a legally recognized witch, because it is according to the teachings of a certain author, or most of Wiccans also think of that, especially in terms of eclecticism. So now, in terms of the practice of witchcraft, which is growing, it is alarming that even the Catholic Church here in the Philippines, they created an office of exorcism, and on that note, it was very, what do you call that, emphasized that they are banning, or they declare that witchcraft is against the teachings of the church and is the work of the devil. So it seems that the Catholic Church is creating an enemy out of us who practice. Especially right now, I am creating in order to revive and restore the culture of the Philippines. No, I'm working with a certain government agency to allow this teaching be available again. But these government offices hinders me because they said, Reverend Apu, Reverend Kumon, the teachings that you are is not approved by the church because it has demonic substance of divination. No. And my effort of legalizing or being professionalized the practice of hilot is hindered because of this policy. But with regards to the practitioners here in the Philippines, even they are not certified, or even if they are not, what you call this, initiated or ordained, they could easily make it because of this trend of witchcraft is cool, Wicca is cool, no? Or some of them is they go to Wicca because of rebellion. I think the third degree material is very helpful. Do not come to Wicca because of rebellion. I think this is all what I want to brought up in this meeting.
Thank you, Sir Rolanda. Sir Mike.
Yes, hi. I think so many things of what has been said is really showing that the same thoughts have been going through many people's mind. I know this was one of Stephanie's leading goals that she was looking forward to. There's been so many great ideas, whether living the Wiccan life becomes like the basis for the start, but we know that we have the green stoles that allow to recognize if someone is on a non-clergy path. But we also know that wearing the black robe is sexy. So, so we should take into consideration the regalia. I know Lady Alyssa is the head of regalia and things like that. And I just think if we're going to do it, we want to put together the whole package and allow people to express themselves. If the only difference is a green stole, it still creates an equality. And it also, if there's going to be patches about what they've done or what they're a part of, I mean, we have so many orders that they can get their certification by maybe taking some of these courses, as Lady Glory mentioned, about what is available. The big thing is having that path presented when they come into witch school, so that they can make that choice, with always the option to switch. You know, there's always the option that once they get into it, they may say, you know what, I want to get ordained. I want to become clergy. So there are my thoughts, and I know Stephanie is just thrilled with all this talk about this. So
I will point out
I might be
before,
losing light soon, and I might be losing power. So
Well, you're still staying outside.
Yeah, I know. I have to stay outside.
No, okay.
Before recognizing Lord Kyle, I do want to point out that all of our clergy materials are available to people who are not pursuing a clergy path.
Yeah, yeah.
Even as it is. Lord Kyle.
Hello again. So My opinion has really always been that Wicca is a faith, belief in the old gods, belief in the Lord and Lady, and so I think it's important that we are cautioned that if we decide to go with these different paths, that it's not like the Wiccan path and the Correllian path. I really don't want to see it turn into such a way that maybe it almost differentiates and kind of splits hairs and actually does the opposite of what we want it to do. And I do like what Lord John had shared about kind of like managerial versus, because it's still very much part of the same idea, part of the same family. We're just choosing how to kind of express ourselves in that. And so I think it is a really great idea. And I can even see in my own temple that there are individuals that maybe want to be recognized and want to get more involved. But when they come to my temple, it is more of a worship center. It's more of a center of worship where we have clergy and we have ritual and we have, observation and celebration. And so in this way, it could also allow others to maybe be interested and invested still in the process in more of a metaphysical way. But I just, I'm kind of thinking again, in cautioning, not trying to separate the two paths almost, and understand that Correllianism is Wicca.
Yeah.
Lady Lorraine?
I do have temple members that do take all of the clergy training because they want to understand the knowledge that comes with that, but they have absolutely no desire to be clergy. We've talked about Witch School a lot, that training is available to everyone. You do not have to apply to be clergy to take that training. I think one of the things that we can do as temple heads is to involve our temple members. At Chosen Path Church, you do not have to be clergy to lead a ritual. You do not have to be clergy to teach a class. Everyone is welcome to do this. If Spirit is telling someone to share a ritual, who am I to say no? You don't have a piece of paper, so therefore you can't. And that's my philosophy within Chosen Path. So I encourage everyone, when you are setting your clergy, your calendar for your temple, to expand offering leadership of rituals to anyone in the temple. Whether they've taken Living a Wiccan Life, whether they just walked in the door yesterday. If you have welcomed them into a spiritual home, I feel it's important to allow Spirit to speak through them and to allow people to do rituals. I'm not saying this is for everyone, but the way I do it, when I started Chosen Path, I told people I cannot do this alone. I can't write every ritual. I can't teach every class. So we have a semi-annual business meeting, and the one in the fall, which is usually November or December, we have all of the calendar set for the year. And we open the floor for people to sign up to lead rituals and to lead study groups. And I take what's left. This year, I have 2 rituals to perform. My temple members stepped up to do every other ritual, all the Shabbat, all the full moon, all the new moons. In fact, we were scared we were not going to have enough rituals for people that wanted to do them. Same thing for study group. I have 0 study groups that I am leading this year. My temple members are leading those study groups. So we talk about Witch School a lot, and we should, because it is what has allowed this tradition to explode around the world. But we also need to look within our own temples as temple heads to make sure that that door is open to every member to express their spirituality, to share their knowledge on whatever topic they want to do a study group on. So, I love the focus on Witch School because y'all know where Witch School is, near and dear to my heart. But we need to not lose sight of our local presence and our local impact as well.
Sir Rolando?
I agree to all what Lady Lori have said, no? And this is the same thing that I'm explaining to everyone. I compared it to on becoming a Catholic member. In the Catholic Church, there is a priest and the members are the devotees. As a devotee, you can do magic, you can do ritual, but there are certain rituals that you cannot do because the only priesthood are allowed to conduct it. But here in the Philippines, what I notice, everyone stand as a priest and they declare themselves also a high priesthood. No, and the danger of that is that they are practicing and conducting certain rituals that might also give harm to the environment, such as the one that I received a report in the Visayas area. There are someone who complained that they offered animals that is endangered. Although our tradition, the Filipino tradition, accepts that ritual offering, but when they ask me to intervene, no, I direct them to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to monitor the activities. But according to the law, kasi, according to our law, when you are going to make an animal offering, there should be a permit from the government. That first you are legal, or you have a standing that you are a religious leader in conducting that ritual. So it requires certification or ordination. If you are just an ordinary person, you will be committing a crime against the law of killing that animal. And here there are in our country, there is certain what do you call that? There is certain procedure approvable by the law on how you kill the animal into a sacrifice, or either it will be for food or whatever, no? And it should be attended by a certain government official when you do that community ritual. But if you are going to practice ritual just because the spirit have told you to do so, there is a thin line that you might violate it, no? So the difference of being educated, well educated in terms of the craft, on the practice of our religion is very important. So we are very thankful that Witch School is available for everyone. But this availability, sometimes they use this as a permit or a license, no, as a permit, as a license. So the Correllian initiation path or clergy path is very important that we should strengthen, and we encourage all the students to become a legal clergy or initiated clergy or ordained clergy of the Correllian tradition. Because I know I'm not only one here in the Philippines, we also have Lord Blue Soul in Mindanao. But as I know and I recognize, many people are taking classes in Witch School, but they are not Correllians. That's all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. So before we move on, I have a couple of things I would like to add to this conversation. The first is that anyone can study our clergy materials without being clergy, as it stands right now. If I understand what I'm hearing, a lot of people would like to see some sort of more formal recognition of people doing that. So that's one thing. The second thing, Lady Elizabeth pointed out that about 10, 15 years ago, there was a movement in the tradition to say that you can be a priestess who is not a clergy person. Legally, no, you cannot. These are identical legal terms. If you're not going to be clergy, you are not priesthood. And that will have to be understood. So those people who are studying without being clergy, I think they understand they're not becoming priesthood. But they need to know that they cannot go out and do a hand fasting. They will have no legal protection if they do, and we will not vouch for them because we have not empowered them to do that. A certificate is all well and good, but it gives no legal protections. Clergy status does.
Yes.
So this is something that must be understood.
Yes,
Lord Brian.
I would,
Oh, I'm sorry, Lady Stephanie.
yes, I completely agree with everything you're saying, but it was like these people that I'm referring to are so not interested in doing anything dealing with clergy at all. So I don't think, but yes, I think that needs to be spelled out in black and white, absolutely. But the other thing I want to bring up is it's about the visibility, going back to that when a new person walks in the doors, they see the different choices, like homepage, however you want to display it, homepage, that they see, oh, well, look at this. I can do this, or I can do that, or I can do this. Okay.
We're actually talking about two different things in this conversation. You know, we need to clarify that, I think. Yes. We're talking about certificate programs for different forms of interest, and we're talking about our clergy classes and whether they need to lead to clergy or not.
Yeah.
And these are truly two different things. They kind of come together, but I think that the conversation is not all on the same page for that reason. Lord Brian.
To kind of build on everything, I think I've talked to you about this before too, Lord Don. While we do use the Living the Wiccan Life as the foundation program or whatever, and at the end for the outer court members, the way I express it to them is to be an outer court member, either of the temple or of the tradition or both or whatever else, that is essentially the same as being a congregant. Right? You are a member. This does not deteriorate anything from who you are or what your participation level is. Within our temple or whatever, we also have two forms of clergy status. Because of the laws and the way the Canadian system works, I have two systems put into place for clergy status. In order to get your clergy status, you have to be an inner court member of the temple. However, there's the full clergy status within our temple, which means you are a public representation, not only of the temple, but the tradition and working active clergy. And we also have the temple clergy. So that would be those people or whatever who fulfill the Living the Wiccan Life or whatever else. I have taken additional classes within the temple or whatever else. I had to learn about traditional witchcraft and everything else like that, as well as the degree system, but have no interest in becoming essentially official clergy and working clergy. So they're just clergy members within the temple. This way they've gone beyond, they've taken the 3 degrees, whatever else that, they're recognized as a witch and a member of the temple and a member of the tradition or whatever else like that, but they have no desire whatsoever to work as clergy, to be that open public representation. Because in Canada, like Lord Don was saying earlier, whatever else like that, anybody in Canada can become clergy. It takes no time at all to become clergy in Canada of anything, whether it's Wicca, Druidry, Asset True, metaphysics, interfaith. It takes no time at all to become a recognized clergy member. However, that only protects you, that only lets you do, baptisms and the basic ceremonies. You cannot legally perform weddings. You have to be legally recognized by the Canadian government in order to perform weddings as official ordained clergy, which is something that we're trying to accomplish here, but we work with another system or whatever to maintain our legal status within Canada as official clergy members. So I mean, that's one of the systems that I've put in place here, whatever, is to differentiate between we have our congregant members, the outer courts who just want to study Wicca and witchcraft and participate with the temple. Then we have our temple clergy or whatever who are members of the tradition, but they don't want to do all that public work. They just want to be able to help with rituals and do all the other stuff and take the studies. But then we have the people like myself who are full clergy, which means we are recognized by the Canadian government. We can basically do everything and anything. And going back to what Laurie Denman was saying earlier, whatever, we kind of have it the same way from start to finish or whatever. If you want to run a ritual and give me a day off, feel free to speak up. I have no problem saying, you want to run a ritual for me today? Thanks. I could use the break. Right? So it's just a matter of allowing all the temple all the temple members to basically be open and willing to do whatever it is that they feel comfortable doing and having that opportunity there for them to do it. Right. So it's like even for our temple clergy, whatever, it would basically be the same as for Roland or whatever, going to a Catholic church, you have your deacons. Our temple clergy, whatever, are kind of the same thing. Within the temple format, you are clergy, you are recognized clergy as everything else. However, outside, you're not official clergy because you haven't fully completed the clergy status program. So that's just one particular option that I've instilled that might help others too.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Brian. And I know there are a couple more people who want to speak, but we're nearly at the end of our second hour. And what I think I would like to do is to go ahead and phrase the vote in this way. And then if people still want to speak, well, we'll give them a chance. I would like us to vote on developing additional ways for people to express themselves in the tradition through certification programs on different interest subjects, and perhaps additional recognition for people who are taking the degree materials but not becoming clergy. Does that seem a reasonable way to proceed? Lady Rain, did you still wish to speak?
Thanks, Lord Don. Yeah, I think for my clarification more than anything, I'm understanding it as three very separate items here. We're looking at certifications based on holistic or various subjects such as tarot or herbalism, whatever, so people can come into the tradition and choose to do a package of courses which will then give them a certification in that area. Then we're looking at ordination, which gives them clergy status and legal recognition. And then we're also looking at initiation based on just, first degree, second degree, third degree. But the two are very different and very separate. So in fact, we're looking at three different issues. Am I correct? Because that's
three different issues have been
understanding it.
discussed. As far as the vote is concerned, I think we would need a lot more conversation to really vote on all of those issues. Because there's so many possible ramifications involved in some of them. So what I would like to say is that we will look at developing these things, not implementing them necessarily. We can research farther some of them, but these certification programs on herbalism or what have you, that's simple.
That's easy enough.
Having recognition for people who have studied the materials but are not becoming clergy, I think that's simple. Some of the other things we've discussed are more complicated and would require more research. But on that, I think that we could go ahead and vote at this time, and we could discuss other things in the future. Now, Lady Kai, did you still wish to speak?
Yes. I can say from personal experience up here, it was a couple times that we've actually had issues with like the certifications and people that weren't qualified or were not our representatives, but were basically claiming to be and going to other traditions in our area to further that to the other tradition. But we know each other for the most part. So they asked and we were able to say, oh yeah, no, nothing to do with us. So I'm scared with like certification type stuff of people, not the people that just want recognition, but the people that'll use it for purposes that we aren't exactly on board for, and we don't want to give them we don't want them representing us or other people out in the community think that they represent us.
Thank you, Lady Kai. So I guess at this point I would say, do we feel we can vote on this? Or do we feel that it's something that requires more conversation? I don't think I see any new hands going up. So in that case, let us go ahead and vote on the idea of looking further into developing some of these things as phrased. And of course, we have our Witan Facebook group where we can discuss things further in greater depth if we feel we need to.
Yeah.
But as Lady Rain was pointing out, the conversation was moving into several different subjects all at once.
Yes.
But I see that people are in favor of developing tracks for people who don't want to be clergy, for want of a better way to put it. And so let us plan to work more with that as we go forward. Even though we're talking about having one big meeting a year, we talk to each other all year long. So we will certainly continue to talk about this, and we will start working on ideas. And as I say, some of it will require more conversation, more research, etc. So we must be mindful of that. But what we've agreed to do is to look into it farther and start developing. So, thank you. Does anyone have anything else they would like to bring up as we close out our second hour? So tomorrow, we will have 2 more Witan sessions. So more chances to bring things up. And we have, let me consult the schedule to make sure I'm telling you the right time, although I'm sure you already know. Tomorrow, of course, we have Demons at noon. We have the Spanish language Consejo Witan Sesión Especial at 4 p.m. and the Asian session at 9 p.m.
We also have at 10 a.m. the outer court dedication, and at 2 p.m. the first degree initiation. So if anyone would like to join those efforts, just ping me and I'll make sure you have the Zoom link.
And so with that, I think it's probably time to go ahead and adjourn our meeting. And I want to thank you all for being here. It has been a wonderful meeting, a wonderful day. And the lobby, I believe, is still open. Is that correct, Lady Elizabeth?
I do believe it is, Lord Don, and I look forward to seeing you all throughout the weekend. I'm glad everybody's having a great time so far.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. And
Goodbye, everyone.
I'm sure we will talk
Bye-bye.
much more